All right. Okay. um, yeah, I had some technical difficulties getting things going just now, but here we go. So today we're going to be making some spin tops, and we're going to be also looking at some things that I've learned lately using the Robert Sorby texturing tool, right? And we're going to be exploring some options for coloring these tops, right? Decorating them and coloring them. So I do need to find one more thing. I had prepared a blank to use for this, but can't seem to put my hands on it at the moment. So maybe I'll have to find a new one. Just give me one sec, see if I can locate that thing. Let's see. Guess not. All right, so we'll just do a different one. No worries. This will work. Okay, so I'm gonna use some. I'm gonna use some hard maple, and that's what we're gonna make our spin tops out of. And so I'm gonna go ahead and switch up my chuck here and get situated so we can do that. Let's see. Oops. All right. So I got my chuck set up here. So we're gonna do a little switcheroo. We're gonna go to our double view, or maybe. Let's go to the top down. All right. So first things first, I got to get this blank mounted up, and so that I can use more of the blank. First thing I'm going to do is round out the end of it and put a little tenon on it so that I can get it mounted in the chuck. And once I have that done, then I'll reverse mount it into the chuck and start doing our thing. All right. I'm going to start off with a 1/2 inch bowl gouge, and I'm going to do my roughing with that. Let's see. All right. Good evening, Chris. Thanks for joining me. Let me get back to this thing here. So anyway, I got my blank of hard maple all chucked up in the lathe and ready to go. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to at least round off this lower end here and put a tenon on it so that I can get it mounted in the chuck properly before I get started. I'm not going to bother to go back too far. I'm not going to bother to round it out too far back at this point, because once I mount it in the chuck, it's going to be off just a little bit because of the fact that wood, when you put it in the jaws of the chuck, it compresses the fibers a little bit. So I'm going to turn a little dovetail right there, a little dovetail tenon, so that I can hold it. Hang on, let me go turn that compressor off. All right. Okay, so we got a tenon on the end of it, so we can turn this around and get it in the chuck. Now, the other thing, too, is that you might notice that the blank is set really deeply into the chuck. If you're trying to get the maximum use out of this blank, this tenon is going to allow me to use up more of the blank because there'll be less waste, because the tenon isn't quite near as deep as that. And I'm pretty sure that's deep enough for me to do what I need to do with it. So go ahead and turn this around. Just mount it in here. So a couple of weeks ago, my wife had an event at her school because she runs a diversity club, and they were having like a fair, and they had people from all ethnicities there doing crafts and things. So I made a ton of tops. How's it going, Alex? Thanks for joining us. I made a ton of these tops at the event for $1 for a $1 donation to my wife's club, and I ended up making like 40 of them at the event. And in the process, I made about 40 of them before I left home, and I took those with me, and those were already ready to go. And in the process of doing all those tops, I learned a couple of new tricks with the texturing tool, which I'm going to share with you guys today. So now I just put it between center just for the sake of between centers, just so that I can finish truing this up. The majority of the work I'll be doing today will be done unsupported. Yeah, I don't know what that's all about. Pick this up a little bit. Almost. I thought there was a little crack or something in the end of this thing. I have to part that bit off and get rid of this flat spot here. Okay, that'll do. So then I'm gonna take my parting tool. I'm gonna part this area right here off because it's all chewed up and gnarly. I don't know how well you can see that. What's up, D Pickett and Susan Hester? Welcome to the show. I had planned on this live going without a hitch. That plan didn't really work out. And I even made a really nice thumbnail for it and everything, but I started one live and it didn't seem like it was showing up on YouTube, so I had to cancel that one and start another one. And I'll just have to add the thumbnail later, I guess. All right. Get rid of all this stuff. There we go. All right. Get rid of that. Okay. So the rest of what I'm going to be doing is going to be done unsupported without the tailstock. So let me get a couple of things moved out of the way. I don't know about you guys, but I have a terrible habit of putting a bunch of things on the bedways of the lathe, which means a lot of times when I change operations, I got to spend several minutes clearing all that stuff off, like I'm doing right now. Let's see here. All right. Okay. And another thing too, when you're working unsupported, where you're not using your tailstock, you want to make sure you take your live center out. Seems like your elbow always tends to find that thing when you don't. So, okay. Now these tops have been super popular, right? So this is a great project that you could use to make for stocking stuffers. It's probably a really good item to sell because, you know, if you practice at it a little bit, you can do it pretty quickly. I think I had gotten it down to like 3 minutes, textured and colored, here in the shop at home. So, and it doesn't take a lot of material either. Let's see here. All right. So now what we're going to do is we're going to get the speed up a bit, and I'm going to start to form the handle. Start to waste away some of this material. Nice sharp tool. Make short work of it. You want to make sure that when you're doing this, you want to try to get as clean a surface as you can on the top of your top, because you want that surface to be as pristine as possible when you go to texture it and color it. So I tend to make my handles on these a little short. Okay. And you can make this, you can shape this pretty much any way you want. Okay. All right. So, and one more thing too is if you want your top to be able to spin both ways, spinning on the handle as well as on the tip of the handle as well as the bottom, you want to make sure that you finish off this surface right here with a little point. So I'm going to come back in, cut that so that it has a little bit of a curve to it and a little point right on the end. All right. Like I said, you want to have your surface as clean as you can get it. That's pretty good right there. So then we're going to do some fun stuff. We're going to start texturing. Let's see. I really wanted to talk about the little flower design that I've been able to get with the texturing tools in the center of your workpiece. I don't have any tops, I don't think. I think all those got snatched. by various individuals. I think my niece took the last two that I made, but I have a couple of these little discs that I do when I'm out doing shows that I can use to show you some of the texturing, that is possible. So right here in the center of this disc, you can see this little flower design, right? That is something that I figured out how, I think I got it down where I can explain that pretty sufficiently and get pretty much anybody up to speed on that. Unfortunately, I made the handle, the top of the handle on this one a little small, but I have been able to do this same pattern on a surface this small. And we are going to give that a crack. How you doing, Brian? Welcome to the show. And you can see all these other textures and things that you can get using this tool. Now, something else is I use these, I use some water-based markers to color these in, and the colors aren't nearly as vibrant. However, lately I've been experimenting with Sharpies, and the Sharpies are giving me a much brighter color. So we're going to do a little bit of playing with that as well. All right? So enough talking about that. Let's have some fun with this thing. Okay? So I'm going to try to see if I can get this to zoom in just a little tighter. I apologize, the camera might jiggle around a little bit as I try to get you guys a better view here. So let's see. You never know which way to turn this thing. Everything works in reverse. Let's see. All right. Let's see if I can get this up a little higher. And just a little bit. Okay, I think that'll work. And then, which way do I go? All right. Okay. I think that'll do. All right. So let me see if adding a little light will help. Maybe make it worse. Not really. Nah, not really. Okay. Enough of that. So, I'm going to go ahead and start putting a little bit of texture right here on this area right here, which is the top of our top. All right. Now, what I find works the best is when you're using these tools, I use them at a pretty slow speed, usually around 500 RPM or so. And the thing is, you want to give this, for best effect, you want to give the tool time to develop your pattern, right? Unless you just want a very like a spiral that radiates from the center to the outside. But if you're trying to make some of the patterns that I'm going to show you, it's really better if you hold the tool in place for a little while. I don't know why that picture looks so bad. See, maybe if I zoom out a little bit, maybe that'll help. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, you can pretty much apply this tool any way you want except for horizontal, right? You don't want to apply it horizontal because these teeth, although they're not really straight, although they're not really straight, they have a little bit of an angle on them, a helix, but it doesn't turn as well. This wheel doesn't spin as well. It doesn't have enough momentum, and it doesn't really produce a really nice pattern if you do it horizontal, but pretty much any other angle works so long as I find that the cutting wheel is at or above center. Okay? So what we're going to do first is I'm going to make a little, like a little flower pattern with this. And I'm going to do that. You use the same technique that you use to make the flower pattern in the center. Now, I'm taking the wheel apart and reassembling it this way because the surfaces on this tool that cut are the beveled face and the end of the tool. So I'm moving this, I've flipped this over so that the wheel is out of my way so that I can apply the tool in this manner right here. So here we go. So I'm just going to come in at about 45 degrees, still a little high on the rest. And I'm going to pivot in and hold it to get our first pattern. Okay? Now what I've also found is you can hold it for a little while and then you can kind of rotate it forward a little bit. And it'll extend. See if we can get a look at this pattern. So when you make the initial contact, you get these little points at the outside. But to get those little lines that go towards the inside, what you have to do is you have to kind of lean into it just a little bit. So just rotate. Let's see if we can switch to the other view here. So I come in at an angle like so, and then I establish it like that, and then I kind of lean forward just a little bit and give it a little bit of time, and it makes these nice long lines here at the base. Okay, so I'm going to run through a couple of other little patterns. Basically, what I'm going to do is just rotate the tool around just to get a different set of patterns. For instance, right now I'm going to put in a spiral, and once I get that spiral, I'm going to go to the opposite side and repeat those settings in the opposite direction to get a crosshatch. Give it time to develop the pattern, and so I'm looking at the angle I have the tool at right now, the wheel, and also the handle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rotate the tool the opposite way and the opposite angle of the handle. Oops. And the opposite angle with the handle, and I'm going to go back in, and I'm going to go right over the top of that other one, and that should give me a nice crosshatch. Then I'm going to do a couple more little patterns here. Okay, and then I'm going to use the texturing tool. And the difference between this one is that it's beveled on both sides, where this one's only beveled on one side. And with this one, you want to use this in a more vertical orientation. It doesn't have to be perfectly vertical, but if you turn it this way, because there is no angle whatsoever on these teeth, it'll just tear up the wood. And you want to just cut with just the points of the teeth. So it's a light touch, and it'll give you a nice orange peel effect, which you're going to see here in just a minute. We're going to do a couple of these tops, so you'll get a chance to see quite a few different variations on the patterning. So this is what we have so far, right? And that looks pretty good, okay? But we're going to go back and we're going to dress it up some more. David asked if that's the mini or the full size. That is the mini. That is the micro tool. Let's see, which camera are we looking at? This is the full-sized. And this will do the same thing. Obviously, the patterns will be bigger, okay? But the issue that I would have with these tops is just that they're so small, and access would be an issue. What's up, Chili Man? Thanks for coming in and checking out the live. Welcome, Pat. Let's see. All right, so we got that going. So then we're going to have a little bit of fun here. And I'll break out these Sharpies. All right. Let me just go to this view here. So my little box for markers is a little bit of a mess right now, but all right, so I'm going to pick a couple of colors here and get the coloring. So these three were very popular when I was doing the charity event at the school, so we'll go with that. Silver, black, and pink. Okay. So when you're using these, if you want to get more life out of it, and also for better application, I cut on the sides of the tip. Okay, I don't color using the tip because it just beats it up. So I have both views showing right now with the cameras, the overhead and the tailstock, so that you can hopefully get an idea of both the coloring effect as well as the way that I'm applying the tip of the marker to the work. And it helps to have your tool rest out so that you have a little bit of support. So I'm going to take and use the side of that to color these textured areas. Okay. And then I'll, do a couple of lines here and there, just to dress it up a little bit. With this, you want to give it a little bit of time too. That really helps. So don't just apply it there. Just, you know, give it a couple of revolutions before you pull the marker away. And like I said, I'm using the side, not the tip of the marker. And it's amazing how well these silver ones work. They really do. They really do have a nice metallic effect, especially considering that these are markers. All right, let's do just the top there a little bit. Okay. See what we got. So you can see how nicely these markers really highlight that pattern in there, right? So let's go ahead and finish this one off and get it off the lathe, and we'll try a couple other things while we make a few more tops. All right. I'm going to go back to the double view so you can, because I do a lot of shifting around with the tool as I part this thing off, so as you see what's going on. See. All right. So I'm going to get the speed back up. I do this with the lathe running pretty fast. This is probably close to 2,000 RPMs. Lower the rest a little bit. Okay. And some people turn these tops with this pointed side, you know, pointed side first or the bottom first. I find that it's easier to do it this way, but that's just my personal preference. There's nothing wrong with doing it the other way. I also decorate the bottom of the tops. So you definitely want to get a good finish on this back side as well. Okay. It's not hard to see that with a little bit of practice, just how quickly this can be done. So I'm going to put the speed back down to about 500, and we're going to do a little bit of texturing on the back. Pretty much goes the same way as the texturing on the front, just have a little bit less room to work with. So let's see here. Okay. All right. Pick my tool rest up a little bit so I can get the tool to cut on center. And then I'm going to do basically the same thing I did on the front, just on the back. And the kids thought it was really cool when I showed them that they could do the showed them that they could spin the tops in both directions, both from the top on the top of the handle and the bottom of the top. Now, when you're using this texturing tool, the texturing wheel, that close to the edge, you want to make sure you don't go off. You want to make sure you don't go past the edge of it, because that would not go well. That would be exciting in a bad way. So, all right, let's put a little color on the back, and then we'll part this one off and move on to the next one. Let's see, what color did I finish off with? And do a little bit of pink there. Okay. A little bit of pink down here. A little bit of black and silver. Okay. A little black right there. I gotta tell you, this is the hardest part for me, figuring out what colors to put on here. So when I was doing the charity at the school, it was a really nice change because the kids picked the colors. So all I had to do is the part that, you know, I'm really comfortable with, which is the turning, And the kids did the color. The kids picked the colors for me, so that was nice. Okay. One thing I didn't do this time around is I didn't use the point tool to divide up those the patterns, which I think it adds a lot to it. I'll do that on the next one for sure. Now, once you've colored the back, you want to be careful not to come in contact with that and undo the work you just did. Okay. Let's switch to just the overhead. See if we can see how this is going. So when you're doing the tops this way, I try to work it down to a very small. I try to work that tip down to a very small size, and then I'm going to switch to my detail gouge to take out the last of the material. That's going to give it a nice point to spin. Keep trying to pick up that cut to keep the bottom nice and smooth. Okay. All right. Okay. Then I'm going to switch to my detail gouge, and I'm going to finish this off. So the way this goes, I got some stuff on the headstock I got to move too. All right. So the way this goes is what you're gonna do, right? Turn this off for a second. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come in and I'm gonna rub the bevel along the back side. I'm gonna rub the bevel along the back side there to make that cut right off of this side of the gouge. Okay, and then as I get closer to parting it off, then I'm gonna rotate it up. I'm gonna rotate this up so that the bevel is still in contact, but that tip is going to sever those fibers. And most of the time, I don't get any torn fibers there. And it makes the top spin very nicely right off the bat. But I do have a little trick that I got from watching a video that Eric Lofstrom put out to smooth over that point if it doesn't come out exactly the way you want. So this is a two-handed operation right here. So I'm going to come in, rubbing the bevel, all right, picking up that cut, and I'm going to finish it off like so. And like I said, as I get to the bottom, I'm going to turn that tool over and part that off. See? And then the bottom of this is going to look very nice. You got a little bit of a sheen on it there. And there's no torn fibers there. None of the fibers are ripped out or anything like that. All right? So what we can do, if we need to address the bottom, we can go ahead and use the bedways to burnish that point. So what you do is just take your top and come down to the bedways and just burnish that point. And I find that they spin a little better after this point's been rounded off a little bit that way. And there you go. And it works good enough. I can spin it in my hand. And that's the bottom detail that I was able to. Oops! Oh, look at that! I thought the camera didn't keep up. So anyway, there's the bottom, right? And basically, what I did to burnish it was, so I can see this side back here. So basically, just take the point and kind of roll it around on your bedways, and that'll burnish it up and give it a nice polish right there. And then it'll turn pretty good. Well, I'm not that good at turning it in place. So off it goes. But anyway, so that's that one. Okay? So we're going to do this one more time, at least. And let's see. If you guys got any questions, I am looking at the chat, so I will try to answer them. Let's see. Okay. All right, so let's do this again. I'm going to do this one probably a little faster. Not that that's super important, but since I've already kind of talked you through it the first time, I'm just going to kind of run through it this time to show you a better idea of how quickly this can be done. Just clearing stuff off the bedways. It's not falling off of here. Okay. So, and I'm going to do a couple of other things with the texturing also. So let's get the speed back up. Okay. I think this is good. All right. I'm gonna leave the end of the handle just a little bit bigger, so we can do a little bit of decoration on the end of the handle. Okay, and cut off that little bit right there. All right, probably just a little bit more right there. All right, we got a nice little point going on. Okay, and then we're gonna clean out some of this material right here. Okay. Try to make this handle just a little bit bigger than the last one. Still want to give it a little shape. All right, so I'm going to clean up this top face here just a little bit. And put that little point on there. Okay. All right. So I'm going to turn the speed down to about 500 again. And then we're going to put that little flower right on the end of this thing. Well, that's the plan. But these things have been known to make a liar out of me from time to time. All right. So like I said, we want to be on center or just above. Okay. I'm going to go back to the other view so you can see, because there's a whole lot going on here. We're rotating the cutter and rotating the handle. All right. So again, I'm going to come at it about 45 degrees, okay, with the cutter vertical and the handle rotated about 45 degrees. And I'm going to pivot in and hold it. Get this out of my way. Down to about 500 RPM. All right, here we go. You only get one shot at this. Okay. And I'll let it establish the outside edges of the petals, and then I'm going to rotate in just a little bit. Okay. And I think, yeah. Yep, that worked out just lovely. So you can see the little flower in there, right? So let's go ahead and decorate the rest of the top of the top. Top of the top. And then we'll get some color on it. All right, so I want to do a little bit of this right at the base. Okay. A little crosshatch action here. Okay. A little bit more of this feathering. And then a little bit of the orange peel texture to fill that out. Okay, so let's take a look at this. All right, so this is pretty nice. Unfortunately, without the color, you really can't see the orange peel here, but this looks pretty good, right? But if we take a point tool or the corner of a skew or one of the diamond-shaped carbide tools, then we can make some divisions between different areas of texture, and I think it makes a pretty nice difference. All right. So the first thing we're going to do is do that for the flower in the center, and once we do that, it's really going to make it look like a flower. Okay, and then you can see that it really does dress it up. Well, it doesn't show on the camera, but trust me, it really does. And then what we're going to do is we're going to separate out some of these different effects. All right. So I turn the lathe off to figure out where I want to put it, because it's hard to see where one pattern begins and one pattern ends. Another one ends when it's spinning. So I turn it off, figure out where I want to put it, put the line, and then turn it back on and put that line there. Okay. All right. Now I think that really dresses that up a bit, and it gives you a couple of other opportunities for the color to really take hold. So let's do something a little different. Let's do red and gold, and let's see, red and gold and blue. All right, I'm no Picasso, so my color choices are highly questionable. Okay, so let's get back in here so we can add some color to this thing. So I'm going to start by coloring the petals of the flower red and get the speed down a bit. Okay, again, I'm using the side of the marker, not the tip. Okay. All right, and then I'll put a little bit of red down here. A little bit right there. So a little bit right on the edge. Okay. And then I'm going to add a little bit of blue right in here, right there on the edge, and probably right there and right there. And then finish it off with some gold. I like gold. Okay. So a little bit of gold in there. Give these metallic markers a few times to go around, and you'll get a really, really, really nice effect out of it. Okay? So let's see what we got. So there you go. I'm going to switch to the... Once I get this off the lathe, I'll switch to the top-down camera. I think it's got a little bit better picture today. See if maybe wiping that off helps. Not really. Okay, so let's get the bottom of this done. All right, just lower this down a bit, crank the speed up. All right, let's get it. Okay, so if you're going to texture the back, you don't want to make this point too thin. You don't want to make this point back here too thin before you start texturing it. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now, and put whatever texture I'm going to put in there, and do a little color, and then I'll go ahead and part this thing off, and then we'll close off this episode. So let's go ahead, and getting in here can be a little tricky because there's not a whole lot of room, and there's a big old nut sticking off the end of it, so it can make for a challenge. I didn't quite get that speed down low enough. All right, and then let me grab my 3 colors again. I'm gonna put the gold on the edge. I might need to get the other marker. This one's not doing so great. There we go. All right, so we're gonna go, yeah, that's much better. Maybe touch up some of this too. Okay. All right, so do a little gold on here. A little bit of these other two colors. You can also do a little bit of blending with these colors. I've been working on the techniques with the markers to get some different effects. That's next on my list of things to really dial in. Steven says he's sure it's not as easy as I make it look. It really is. It might take you a little while to get the speed part, but it really isn't nearly as. It's not really an intimidating project. But I did like 80 of them in the course of a couple of days, so I was able to pick up just a little bit of proficiency there. Plus, I was doing it basically as performance art at that fundraiser, because I had all these kids and parents standing in front of me, you know, expecting a top. So I had to put on a little performance, and I had to do it quickly to make sure that I got to everybody's thing. So I did pick up just a little bit of speed, and I did get just a little more efficient with the process, but it is totally doable. All right. This part right here kind of put me in the mind of finials. And I would finish it off with this bowl gouge, but the wings are a little too... The wings aren't swept back far enough, and they tend to catch. So that's why I always switch to the detail gouge. And again, I'm going to come in and pick up that last cut. Cut in, and rotate the tool over and sever those fibers off. Okay. That's the design we got off the bottom there. Sorry. Moving around with this camera thing is crazy. So that's the design we got. Like I said, the gold and the metallic colors are really nice. They give a really nice effect. And there's the flower there on top. So you can do it on even really small, really small surfaces. And like I said, there is a little bit of a rough bit there on the bottom. It would still spin, but I'm just going to go ahead and use the lathe bed to burnish that point off. All right. If you happen to tear some fibers or something like that, just do that. Do that same procedure with a little bit of sandpaper, and it'll get you right. And there you go. Another spinning top. Let's see here. Try not to throw it across the shop. All right. So, and here's the two tops that we made today. Okay. I personally think that adding the little divisions really dress up the design. You know, but that's just my personal, oops, wrong direction. That's just my personal preference, I guess. But anyway, let me switch back to this one. So here's these two little tops, right? You know, with some practice, I got this down, like I said, I've gotten it down to as little as 3 minutes. Turned, textured, parted off, completely finished. And you know, these are really great if you do craft shows or something like that. You know, you can spend a couple hours in the shop before you go down to your show, to your craft show, and batch out a bunch of these and just throw them in a basket. You know, you could get, you know, $10 for them. You know, and there's a lot of opportunities for designs between the texturing tools. and the Sharpies, right? And this texturing tool is really not that expensive. There's a kit that you can buy. I think it's probably $100, but it comes with the 3 wheels. I don't know that I didn't really talk about that, but this one is the coarser one. I don't know how well that'll show, but that wheel, it's got the coarser wheel on it, and this one's a little bit finer, okay? And then this one is the texturing wheel, right? And you can get a kit that has all those things. You can also buy it unhandled for less than $100. And you can use it for all kinds of things. If you follow me on social media, you've seen me use it on bowls and vases and hollow forms and different things like that. So I really enjoy having these tools. And I'm not going to tell you, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that you're going to pick it up and it's going to be awesome right out of the gate. It does take a little bit of time to play with it. These tops are a really great exercise for that because they're, it doesn't take you that long to make them. You're not wasting a lot of material, and you can try out all kinds of different ways of using the tool. And when you find something that you like, just take note of the positioning of the handle and the wheel, the different angles and things that you have set up, and just keep doing it. Just, keep doing that until you can, till you get to a point where that's something you can expect. And I'm also working on a video that I'm going to be putting out in collaboration with Robert Sorby, going into more details on how I use this tool. Okay. Let me see. Let me check the chat real quick, see if there's any questions I need to ask or answer. Yeah, Pat mentioned that that they like to use the point tool after they color it to expose the bare wood underneath. That's also a really good way to highlight your designs as well. I also, let's see, I think I have a couple of those discs. I have one, I know there's one in there that I used. Here we go. Something else you can do with this is you can take it and you can cut in some coves and different kinds of reliefs with your gouges, right? And then you can even you can even texture on these surfaces. Like this blue, that's got a cove cut, kind of cut into the face of it. Let's see if I can get that to focus a little better. Yeah, it's got a cove cut into the face of it. And then that in the center, it's raised, and that gives a really nice opportunity for you to do more texturing. Even this purple bit on the outside is raised a little bit. So, there's a lot of different ways you can use it. In fact, the scalloped edge is another function of this tool. With a sled, you can also do spiraling. So I basically spiraled that blank before I textured this and made this little disc. So anyway, I ain't gonna hold you guys up much longer. It's right about, well, it would be the hour mark if I started on time, but right about the hour mark there. And so I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this up. But we are getting the show schedule worked out. Be on the lookout on my social media sites, particularly Instagram. And I'll be letting you guys know where I'm going to be. So if you wanted to see this done in person or to see me, bring any of your Robert Sorby tool related questions or sharpening questions to me to the show, I can show you hands-on. And we always have a good time at the shows and things. So I'll be announcing where they are. Hopefully I'll do it, a week or two ahead so that people can plan for it if that's something that you want to do. So anyway, there's that. And thank you guys for joining me in the shop today. I hope I answered everybody's question. I'll take one more quick look here. Let's see. I think I just saw one. All right. So Kevin asked, can you color the cut instead of the raised surfaces? Yeah, you can, but not with the Sharpies, really. I mean, you could take it, you could turn the lathe off. You can use paint, or you could use like dyes or whatever, and you can dye down into the relieved surfaces, the lowered surfaces from the texture. And then you can also go a little bit further than that, and you can color it at the low points, and then you can go back and use the Sharpies on the high points, particularly the metallic ones. The metallic ones lay down really nicely over existing color. So you could highlight the high points and then have the lower points a different color, which would give a really nice, effect. Probably something I need to look into. So thanks for the suggestion. So let's see. Welcome, Rick. Okay, so I guess that's it. I think I got all the questions. If I didn't get your question, I'm sorry. I will check the chat after this is over, and I'll try to get you an answer. And so anyway, thank you guys for joining me in the shop today. Remember, dread not and make something.